Disho Jagrihur Goram, Niharam Radvidustamam. Sa istam grinata putram, Puro Drisva Prajapatin, Prajapati Patistanvam, Tatyaja Viditastada, Tandisho Jagrihur Goram, Niharam Yadvidustamam. Sa istam Prinata Putran Puro Disva Prajapatin Prajapati Patistanvam Tatyaja Viditastada Tam Disho Jagrihur Goram Niharam Yadvidustamam. Hare Krishna. So anyone who would like to chant, please unmute yourself and chant now. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Sa itam grinataha putran puro dishtava prajapatin prajapati patistanvam tatyaj vriditastada tam diso jagrihur goram niharam yad vidustamaha. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Anyone else?
Hare Krishna. Sa itam granata luputran puro drishto va prajapatin prajapati patistanbhan tatyaja viditastada tam drishto jagurur ghoram niharam yad vidastamaha. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
Sa itham granata putran puro drishtva prajapatin prajapati patistanvam tatyaja vriditastada tam disho jagrihur ghoram niharam yadvidustamaha.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go to the word for word. Sa he Brahma. Itam thus. Grinata speaking. Putra sons. Pura before. Rishva seeing. Prajapati all the progenitors of living entities. Prajapati the father of them, Brahma. Tanvam body. Tatyaja quit. Vedita ashamed. Tada at that time. Tam that body. Disha all directions. Jagrihu accepted. Goram blamable. Viharam fog. Yad that which. Vidu they know as. Tama darkness. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The best way to compensate for one's sinful acts is to give up one's body at once. And Brahma, the leader of the living entities, showed this by his personal example. Brahma has a fabulous duration of life, but he was obliged to give up his body due to his grievous sin, even though he had merely contemplated it in his mind without having actually done it. This is a lesson. This is a lesson for the living entities, showing how sinful an act it is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. Even to think of abominable sex life is sinful. And to compensate for such acts, one has to give up his body. In other words, one's duration of life, blessings, opulence, etc., are decreased by sinful acts. And the most dangerous type of sinful act is unrestricted sex. Ignorance is the cause of sinful life, or sinful life is the cause of gross ignorance. The feature of ignorance is darkness or fog. Darkness or fog still covers the whole universe, and the sun is the only counteracting principle. One who takes shelter of the Lord, the perpetual light, has no fear of being annihilated in the darkness of fog or ignorance. Oma Ginat Virandisya Gyana Gana Shalakaya Chakshu Umilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manopishtam Stapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadatikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sri Yutapada Kamalan Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupa Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhuitam Sabadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusuti Devi Paramani Hari Vanchakapatarubhasya Kripa Sindhi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sivasari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Sanyavari Paschatyadi Shitarini Namo Mahabalanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namni Gurachise Namaha Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Himavya Vichavisundaraya Tasvi Mahaprema Raspadaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste, Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Hare Krishna. So, translation again. The father of all Prajapatis, Brahma, thus seeing all his Prajapati sons speaking in that way, became very much ashamed and at once gave up the body he had accepted. Later, that body appeared in all directions as the dangerous fog in darkness. Hare Krishna. So, obviously, this is a text that indicates that something had happened prior to that. The Prajapati were speaking in that way. Why were they speaking in that way? What had happened? Lord Brahma had contemplated sexual activity, sexual desire. And it was very unbecoming of a personality as elevated as him. And so when his sons, who were also Prajapatis, that's not surprising to anyone. It shouldn't be, because if you have a child and later on the child grows up and has a child and that child grows up and has a child, you have grandchildren, great-grandchildren. So they are all also able to have children. So Lord Brahma's sons, who were Prajapatis, saw what had happened, or at least got to know what had happened. And they approached their father and explained to him how embarrassing it was to contemplate sexual activity, especially sexual activity involving his own daughter. Now, Srila Prabhupada said in this that, in the purport, the best way to compensate for one's sinful acts is to give up one's body at once. And Brahma showed this example. So simple acts, if you think about this statement, we have been involved in simple acts. And so that's one of the things that happens. And, that is the antidote for it. It did happen with one particular Srila Prabhupada disciple. And Srila Prabhupada was quite disturbed to hear that that particular devotee left the body or committed suicide. Vishnu Jana Swami. So, in other words, it's there, but it is not recommended right now that we do. What we need to do to counteract that is to go through the process of purification and take that very seriously. Of course, there's also forgiveness. The Lord does, in fact, forgive. And He has said in Bhagavad Gita, Konteya Patijanihi Name Bhakta Pranashati. My devotee, you, Arjuna, declare, will never perish. So the mercy is there. And in this Kali Yuga, where we're challenged more by the very thing that Lord Brahma fell to, so much is being done in this material energy on this planet using sexual indulgence or pushing people's mind towards sexual activity. In other words, many things are being advertised, they're being sold based on mode of passion. The business people are heavily in the mode of passion themselves. Passion for making money. And then there are people who are supposedly aristocrats and they like distinction and adoration. This is all subtle, the subtle form of sexual activity. So there's gross sex and there's subtle sex. As Hunnes Bhaktivedanta Swami, my Guru Maharaj, explained that to clamor for distinction and adoration, that is a subtle part of sex. And the gross sex is actually sexual intercourse. But everything has its purpose. Krishna says, I'm sex life according to regulated principles. So sex life is not condemned. Unrestricted sex life is condemned. That's what's condemned. So Brahma should have restricted himself, but his thoughts were the way it was. Now, you can say that Brahma was contemplating incest because that particular daughter was his daughter. But actually, in one sense, how can Lord Brahma escape incest if he thinks sexually? He's the creator of everyone. So everyone is related to him. And if a person indulges in sexual activity with a family member, that's incest. So Lord Brahma, thinking that way, couldn't have escaped this whole idea, the whole point of him involving himself in incest. So Srila Prabhupada said, this is a lesson for all living entities, showing how simple an act it is to indulge in unrestricted sex life. So there is restricted sex life, and sex life that's restricted for human beings, especially since we have the level of intelligence to figure things out better than the others in the 8 million types of non-human bodies. We know that our body is made such that once you indulge in sexual activity, there's pregnancy that follows. Biologically, this is how we're built. And so that one regulated principle that says no illicit sex is actually supporting our biological makeup in that sex life means pregnancy. And so if we want, then we should be able to be prepared for the result of it. The child and having to take care of a child until the child becomes an adult. And definitely in a marriage situation so that both parents are there to take care of the child. Under those conditions, then sexual intercourse is allowed. So under any other condition, it's not. So we shouldn't involve ourselves in unrestricted sex life. Now, why are people indulging in this wanton sex life anyway? It's because they are seeking after pleasure, pleasing the senses. And sex life seems to project that opportunity for sense enjoyment. Mm? It is its own distinct level. Yet it's explained that due to the very challenging process of pregnancy, when a woman is pregnant, they go through a lot. It's not austerity in itself. Body changes and so many things at the physical level and emotional level. The hormones all kick in and all kinds of things happen. As of course, I'm not in the female body, but my wife explained to me what was going on. So I knew some of it, at least the ones she explained to me. So it's a challenging process. So the sense pleasure associated with sex life is to have the woman involved or be open to sex life so that the pregnancy would be initiated. Looking at it the other way, without that lure of sexual enjoyment, both the man and the woman will not be bothered with having to have children. So that's why it is there. But since people are in the mode of passion and just wanting pleasure, they seek after pleasure any way they can get. And this one has become the go-to for many people. So Sri Prabhupada says, even to think of abominable sex life and to compensate for such acts, one has to give up a body. Now, in Kali Yuga, we have a slight break here. That if we think about negative things, they don't affect our spiritual bank account when we think about it. But as soon as the thoughts come out of our mouths or we act on it, then if it's negative, then it goes against us. So, yes, sometimes sexual thoughts will come to our mind, not because of even us liking this whole thoughts and activity so much, but because it permeates, that thought is permeating the atmosphere. Many people who are non-devotees are thinking and acting that way. People are dressing that way. Putting on clothes that gets people's thoughts, sexual thoughts going. And so it is in the air. And thoughts travel. And so everybody's going to be somehow bombarded with those thoughts. And so it's been set up in Kali Yuga that thoughts only would not affect our spiritual bank account, only because we are influenced that way by the thoughts that are already permeating the atmosphere. There's a lot of mode of passion and mode of ignorance, thoughts and speech that's going on. We call it the speech, we call it street language or four-letter words or whatever things that we've used to describe it. But those thoughts, once they hit the atmosphere, somebody speaks it out, talks about it, it permeates the atmosphere, it travels. And it does, in fact, get embedded in people's minds, people who were not even thinking about that. Then it begins to affect that person. One example about it is not related to sex directly, but many, many times, many people can tell you that they were thinking about a particular person. And as they were thinking about a person, there was a knock on the door or the doorbell rang, and they went to open and that person is there. We go, oh, I was just thinking about you, and now you showed up. It's happened practically everybody's life. They know that situation does happen every now and then. Well, why is that? So I was thinking about the person, and then the person showed up at my door. Actually, it is a person that's coming that because they know where they're going, they're already thinking about us. And the thoughts travel. And so the thoughts came into our minds. And this is how it's explained. Because the person coming to visit us was the one thinking about us, and thoughts have formed. They travel. They traveled to us and got lodged in our mind. And we began to think that way about that person while the person was walking towards our door. And that's what physically translates to the doorbell ringing, and you go and that person is there. Also, thoughts being thoughts that travel, things that travel. In another situation, it also happened to a number of us, if not all of us. But sometimes in the crowd, you're thinking about somebody because you look at that person is there. You actually physically look at that person. You look at that person, stare at them for a while, and you're thinking about them as you're looking at them. The next thing you know, the person turns around and looks exactly at nobody else but you. You were thinking about them, they turn around and look at you. Same thing. It supports the fact that thoughts travel. So we're affected like that. Anyway, to Lord Brahma, he did think of sex life. And worse still, he thought of having sex with his own daughter. This was bound to happen because everyone in the material world is related to Lord Brahma as a son or daughter or grandchild or whatever, depending on which Prajapati. So Lord Brahma could not have escaped being accused of incest. In his situation, that was the way it was. So there was another situation. This one is in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antilila. Before we get to it, Papa makes a very important point here. Duration of one's life, the blessings that should come to one, the opulence that's even set for somebody, they get decreased by sinful acts. So we have to be careful to stay away from sinful activity. Krishna says, surrender to me and I'll protect you from the reactions of sinful activity. Still, that is there, and it's Krishna's mercy that he says in Bhagavad Gita, just abandon all varieties of religion and just come to me, surrender to me. So Chaitanya makes it even easier. Chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and if you chant with great attention and focus, you will slowly but surely develop love of Krishna, Krishna Prema. But we got to remember one thing, that Srila Prabhupada is saying. One's duration of life can be shortened. One's blessings can be decreased. One's opulence can be decreased by sinful acts. So even though Krishna says that when we surrender to him, that he will protect us from the reactions of sinful activities, we have to try to prevent getting into sin anyway. And the most dangerous type of sinful act is unrestricted sex. Krishna says, I'm sex life according to regulated principles. So he supports restricted sex, not unrestricted sex. So, Chuta Haridas situation in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antilila, it's chapter 2. So, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there was a situation, and the situation starts from, I think it's good to start 101, thereabouts. So we'll tell the story of how it all happened. And it connects to actually this whole sex life situation. Now remember, Lord Chaitanya is here. Krishna Bharantu Sa Krishna Sangupangata Pashadam. The Gay Sankirtan Payam Jantihi Sumedasa. Krishna has come as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to set an example of how to be the best devotee. He's teaching us. Therefore, everyone around him, his associates, are to help him to project the best level of devotee life. Now, with that in mind, Antilila, Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 2, text 101. So we started this week. Bhagavan Acharya, who is an associate of Lord Chaitanya. So one day he invited Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to come to his home to have lunch. And he was preparing rice and various types of vegetables. So there was a devotee called Chuta Haridas or Junior Haridas. He used to sing for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That's one of his services. And Bhagavan Acharya called him to his home and asked him this. He said, please go to the sister of Chiki Mahiti. And Chiki Mahiti's sister is called Madhavi Devi. You use my name to ask her for white rice, the manna of white rice, and bring it here. Bhagavan Acharya was cooking because he has invited Lord Chaitanya to come to his home. So Chiki Mahiti's sister is called Madhavi Devi. She was an elderly lady, and she performed austerities. She was very advanced in devotional service. So this was the person that Bhagavan Acharya asked Tuta Haridas, Junior Haridas, to go see and use Bhagavan Acharya's own name to say, Bhagavan Acharya has asked me to come get some rice for he's cooking for Lord Chaitanya. So, of course, Tuta Haridas went. So, Tuta Haridas went, begged the rice, and brought it to Bhagavan Acharya. And the quality of the rice was very high. Very nice rice. So in great affection, which is also a lesson for us, Bhagavan Acharya cooked varieties of vegetables and other preparations that he knew the Lord Chaitanya liked very much. And he also got remnants of food from Lord Jagannath. And then he made sure he put in digestive aids such as ground ginger and lime and salt to make sure that the digestion the Lord Chaitanya after he eats goes smoothly. Which means, as we said, in great affection is a lesson for us. All our services have to be done with great affection. That's how we will learn to come to the level of Krishna Prema. We should love to serve. First of all, we can start taking service seriously. We should feel fortunate that we have services to do. Because devotional service is what pleases Guru and pleases Krishna. So when we have a chance, not only to hear and chant, but also do some other services, that is a very, very distinguished situation that we're in. Because very few people in the world get the opportunity to serve the Lord like that, and to serve the devotees, and serve the deities, and serve Guru also. So anyway, to come back to this point, Bhagavan Acharya poured his heart out into the cooking. Then at noon, Lord Chaitanya came. Bhagavan Acharya had already, done the offering, so he gave it to Lord Chaitanya, prepared a nice place for him to sit. And Lord Chaitanya, first, he looked at the rice. He appreciated the fine rice that was there. So then he questioned Bhagavan Acharya, where did you get such fine rice? When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked who baked the rice and brought it back, Bhagavan Acharya mentioned the name of Junior Haridas. So Lord Chaitanya just praised the quality of rice and took the prasadam. Then when he went back, Lord Chaitanya went back to his residence. His personal assistant was there, Govinda. And he told Govinda, from this day forward, do not allow Chota Haridas to come here. Now that seems like like a blow. But he told his servant Govinda, don't allow Chota Haridas to come here. So when Chota Haridas heard that he had been ordered not to approach Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, he became very morose, became very unhappy. And no one could understand why he had been ordered not to come. So Junior Haridas began to think something was wrong. And he fasted continuously. 3 days went by. Lord Chaitanya's associates were there. Swarup Damodar Goswami, other confidential devotees. They saw what was going on. So then they approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to inquire from him. They go, what great offense has Junior Haridas committed, and why has he been forbidden to come to your door? He has now been fasting 3 days. The Lord Chaitanya said, I cannot tolerate seeing the face of a person who has accepted the renounced order of life and still talks intimately with a woman. Chaitanya Haridas was in the sannyas ashram. And he basically, in our language, flirted with a woman. Madhavi Devi is a high-level devotee. Mm? So when Chaitanya Haridas went to beg rice, he did more than just begging rice. Mm? He got to talk, and he talked intimately with Madhava Devi. Mm? So Lord Chaitanya explained the so wrong to the senses. They are so strong that they would attach themselves to objects of enjoyment. That even a wooden statue of a woman can attract the minds of a great saintly person. Even that can happen. So one should not sit closely with one's mother, sister, or daughter because the senses are so strong that they may attract even a person advanced in knowledge. And here comes what happened to Lord Brahma. That was Brahma's daughter that he went after. So Lord Chaitanya warned like that. Now, he's talking especially of the sannyasa ashram because in the grihastha ashram, we're around women all the time. Women are grihasthas, men are grihasthas. So for sannyasis, it's very important that we're careful what we do. That's why some of our sannyasis travel, they go different places, but then they have a male servant with them. So that when they go, then all the activities involving what the sannyasi needs, that male servant helps them that way, serves that way. Mm-hmm. So Lord Chaitanya explained there are many persons with little in their possession, and they accept the renounced order of life, but they accept it like monkeys. Mm-hmm. He explained later on. He says they go here and there, and they engage in sense gratification, and they speak intimately with women. Mm-hmm. So the devotees saw that Lord Chaitanya was actually angry. They don't even explain why he was angry like that. Of course, what Chaitanya Haridas had done as a sannyasi was the main reason. Mm-hmm. So when the devotees saw him like that, then they all kept quiet. The next day, the devotees approached Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to submit an appeal on behalf of Chaitanya Haridas. Chaitanya Haridas, they said, has committed a small offense. Their way of looking at it, there was actually no gross sexual activity that happened because Madhava Devi herself probably would not have allowed him anyway to an elderly woman. And, Chaitanya Haridas in the sannyas ashram should know better. But anyway, he flirted, so that's another story. So they're telling Lord Chaitanya, he didn't go all the way. So it's a small offense. Therefore, please be merciful to him. He's fasted. He's received a sufficient lesson. So in future, he won't commit such an offense. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, my mind is not under my control. It does not like to see anyone in a renounced order who talks intimately with women. Then he told them, you should all attend to your respective engagements and give up this useless talk. If you speak this way again, I shall go away and you will no longer see me here. So now when the devotees heard that, sounded like a threat, they did not want to lose Lord Chaitanya. So everybody covered their ears with their hands and got up and went about their respective duties. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also left to perform his duties. Nobody really could understand the pastimes. So the next day, the devotees went to another devotee, Sri Paramananda Puri. Paramananda Puri is quite elevated. And he thought that at his age and his influence that he could help to pacify the Lord. So they told him what had happened. And Paramananda Puri went alone to the residence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Lord offered Paramananda Puri obeisances. Remember, he's acting like, he's playing the role of a devotee. Therefore, of course, his high level devotee has come. The Lord offered him obeisances and treated him nicely, treated him with great respect. Then the Lord inquired, what's your order? For what purpose have you come here? Then Paramananda Puri submitted this prayer that the Lord show favor to Junior Haridas. Then when the Lord heard this, he said, My dear Lord Pamanandapuri, please hear me. It is better for you to stay here with all the Vaishnavas. You give me permission to leave to go to Alalanath. Hmm? And I shall remain there alone. Only Govinda will come with me, my personal servant. Now, after saying that, then the Lord called Govinda and offered obeisances to Pamanandapuri, and he got up to leave. So, in great haste, that Pamanandapuri Goswami went to him and said, great humility persuaded Lord Chaitanya to sit down in his room. So then he said, my dear Lord Chaitanya, you are the independent personality of Godhead. You can do whatever you like. Who can say anything about you? All your activities are beneficial for the people in general. We can't understand them, for your intentions are deep and grave. Pavanandapuri tried, and he almost left. Remember, he had threatened the other devotees that you keep talking like that, I won't stay here. And he was going to do it when Pavanandapuri came. So finally, Lord Chaitanya stayed. And then the devotees went to see Junior Haridas and told him, this is all because of sexual activity, sexual thoughts. So Damodar Goswami told Haridas Thakur, listen, we have tried. We all wish you well. Just believe what I'm going to say. That right now, Lord Chaitanya is persisting in his mood of anger because he's the independent supreme personality of God, and we all know that. But at some time, however, you will surely be merciful because at heart, he's very kind. Right now, the Lord is persisting. And if you also persist through your fasting, then his persistence, the Lord's persistence will increase. So it's better for you to bathe, take prasadam, and in due course, Lord Chaitanya's anger will automatically go down, will subside. So when he said this, Damodar Goswami induced Haridas to bathe and take prasadam, and after reassuring him like that, he returned home. Now, so what happened? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go to see Lord Jagannath in the temple, but Haridas Thakur would see, not Haridas Thakur, but Junior Haridas. That's why I call him Junior Haridas, because there's also Haridas Thakur who was also alive at that time. So Junior Haridas would stay a long distance away from him, from Lord Chaitanya. So all the devotees saw this example. This mentality of fear grew within them. Therefore, all of them stopped talking with women, even in dreams. Nobody wanted to have Lord Chaitanya leave them. So like that, a whole year passed for Junior Haridas. But there was not a sign of Lord Chaitanya's mercy towards him. So at the end of one night, Jyoti Haridas, after offering Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu his respectful obeisances at a distance, he departed for Prayag without saying anything to anyone. And Junior Haridas conclusively decided to attain shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya in a different way. So he entered the deep water at Triveni, which is a confluence of Ganga and Jamuna, and at Prayag. And in this way, he gave up his life. I see the Prabhupada is saying, offenses that are that grievous, actually people give up their lives like that. But in Junior Haridas' case, he realized a year had gone by. He had fasted 3 days. He had taken the devotee's advice and said, they're telling him that Lord Chaitanya will come around. Just keep going on. He's offering obeisances at a distance where everybody else could go close to him and offer obeisance. All because he's a sannyasi and he flirted with a woman. So after immediately committing suicide, he went into his spiritual body. Now remember, when somebody commits suicide, they actually don't get a body, gross body. They stay in their subtle body, which is called a ghost. But this is where Lord Chaitanya began to be merciful. He went into this spiritual body. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted Jyoti Haridas in his spiritual body. And this is how he received the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So in his spiritual body, he remained invisible. Now, remember we said right at the beginning that the service of Junior Haridas, he used to sing to the Lord. So he got a spiritual body and he began to sing. He was invisible to everyone, but he would sing at night for Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya knew that that was going on. And then one day, Lord Chaitanya inquired from the devotees, "Where is Haridas? You may bring him here now." Of course, this is the Lord, his pastimes. He knew where Lord Chaitanya, Haridas was, Junior Haridas was. Then the devotees replied, "Well, one night at the end of the full year, Junior Haridas got up and went away, and no one knows where he's gone." So the devotees were lamenting, and the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was smiling mildly. So everybody was astonished. Why is he smiling? We're talking about Junior Haridas having his, left. We don't know where he is. But he kept singing at night. And now Junior Haridas decided to sing to the hearing of the devotees. At first it was only to Lord Chaitanya. But later they could hear him at night. They couldn't see him, but they knew his voice because he used to sing before he left his body. So they knew it was him. And so people are saying, some of them started, well, he must have committed suicide by drinking poison, and because the sinful act, he's become a Brahman ghost. That's why we can't see him, but we can hear his singing. And by the way, Junior Haridas was singing wonderful tunes of this very mantra, Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So, so it was now explained to them. A devotee that had returned to Navadvip from Prayag told the details of what happened to Junior Haridas, this time to all the devotees, about Junior Haridas's suicide. He explained how Junior Haridas had made a resolution that he would go to those waters, the confluence of Jamuna and the Ganges, and then Shiva Thakur and other devotees, they were very surprised to hear that. Well, they inquired more, and finally, they were told more details about what happened. So now the devotees were being able to put two and two together. What had happened, to wrap it up, there's more, but wrap it up. Lord Chaitanya did not accept Junior Haridas after he was involved in this, activity, even though it was flirting, but it was actually sexually based with Madhavi Devi. Lord Chaitanya was setting example of being the best devotee. So he did not want those who were around him to put him in a situation where his own reputation will be compromised. When Junior Haridas, has committed that kind of sinful activity as a sannyasi, and Lord Chaitanya himself taking sannyas, why would he allow someone who has done that kind of sinful activity to be in his party and begin to talk to people about how they could be the best devotee? Lord Chaitanya was setting the highest standard. That's why he did not allow Chaitanya Haridas to be around him. And he wasn't going to allow him, no matter how many years it took, Lord Chaitanya would not have accepted Chaitanya Haridas in his company anymore. Because people will talk about it. Oh, he did this and he's been allowed, therefore I also can do this and still go on. And the whole sannyas ashram level of strictness would be compromised. That's why Lord Chaitanya didn't allow, but he still gave him the mercy. What we learn, the Prabhupada says that he left the body. And Lord Chaitanya did give him the mercy when Chaitanya Haridas became invisible. So now people can't see him and make that kind of comment that he's still around Lord Chaitanya after he's committed this offense. But still, now he's in the spiritual body. And he could still resume his service of singing to Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went around the situation. But it was because Chaitanya Haridas shouldn't have done what he did. He flirted as a sannyasi with the devotee Mataji. He flirted as a sannyasi with the devotee Mataji. So we have to be careful. We have to be very careful. Here in this material world, we try to involve ourselves in activities just to satisfy the senses. And actually, yesterday I was reading Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 9, Text 1. I'm actually reading in a recording. And there's a section of the purport that hit me like a ton of bricks. It was very funny how Srila Prabhupada put it to me, but it was really to make the point. Why we are in the material world in the first place. Well, we know that living entities, they are illusions because they want to become like Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. We like to be like a person who wants to become a king without possessing the necessary qualification. So when the living entity becomes or desires to become the Lord himself, then the Lord puts him into a dream state, dreaming like he's a king. This material life, sometimes it appears it's like a dream. So anybody can be in a dream and in the dream look like a king, or even be a king in the dream, but is it real? So the analogy Srila Prabhupada gave is, it's like a child crying to the mother. I want the moon, Ma, I want the moon. I've seen the moon, I want it. Of course, the mother can't give the child the moon. So what does the mother do? The mother will give the child a mirror that reflects the moon to satisfy the crying of the child. So here's the moon, here's the moon. And the child looks at the mirror and he sees the moon. Oh, I got the moon. So similarly, our situation is like that. The crying child of the Lord is given the reflection, the material world, a perverted reflection of the real thing. And we think it's nice. This is it. And so after we struggle a little bit and we come to our senses, then we give up the frustration of becoming one with the Lord. That's what devotees are at. Many people who are non-devotees are still looking at this image of the moon and they think it is the moon and they think they got what they need. So we're an illusion. So we are put in this material world because of our illusion. And by the way, so is Lord Brahma. Then illusion begins with everyone wanting to enjoy the senses, and Lord Brahma takes it to be the level of contemplating incest being due to being influenced by sexual desire, which is increasingly dominant in the present day society. So the conclusion is we must endeavor to restrict sexual sense enjoyment by involving ourselves sexually only according to the regulated principles. We also should remember that we are only trying to enjoy a reflection of the real act. There is sexual activity in the spiritual world. The real, everything is real. Then here we have a perverted reflection. So if a reflection is such that there's sex life here, there must be sex life in the spiritual world. There is. But the real one, not the reflection of the moon. And surrendering to Krishna will give us peace of mind, and ultimately the happiness here, and even more happiness in the spiritual world. So yes, there is so much that the spiritual world provides for a person's enjoyment, for all living entities' enjoyment. There's so much versatility. Brihad Bhagavatamrita says so much we cannot, there's no time to go through. But there's tremendous life, wonders, wonderful life in the spiritual world. Not even a trillionaire can live like that. This is how much is there. That's between Garga Samhita and Brihad Bhagavatamrita explaining what is in the spiritual world, especially Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So there's nothing here, not even in the heavenly planets, to give us the real pleasure that we want. And sexual pleasures we put on hold. It's only for luring us to go through the process of begetting children. That's all it is. But it's not real enjoyment. And if you understand it that way, then we should get something better. Not something temporary. Like it says in the Bhagavad Gita, Yehi samspasa jaboga, dukkha yona ya evate, adhyanta vanta kauteya nate shuramate buddha. That the intelligent person doesn't go after things that are temporary. They have an end. Go for the eternal one. And the greatest in enjoyment. That's what's waiting for us. And Srila Prabhupada is guiding us, especially to that planet, Krishna Loka, that has the greatest variety of pastimes that we can perform with the Lord and all the other devotees. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is the time to unmute yourself, dear devotees. Thank you for coming on. And anyone has questions or comments, then they can, as they like, unmute themselves and let's hear from you. Hare Krishna. To anyone? Is that a difficult subject? I know some people are embarrassed to talk about sex life, but it's part of life here. Hare Krishna.
I don't see anyone's hands up, but Prabhuji, I really like the way you connected this pastime with Sota Haridas and Chaitanya Charitamrita.
Sorry, I had to change something here. Can you repeat if you don't mind? If you don't mind.
No, as I said, the way you connected this pastime with the Chota Haridas pastime in Chaitanya Charitamrita was really helpful.
Thank you very much. Glories to Guru and Gauranga. Glories to Guru and Gauranga. Lord Chaitanya had to set a high standard. He came to show us how to be the best devotee we could ever be, the topmost. Therefore, he wasn't going to tolerate a situation like that. That would reduce the whole intensity and level of devotion that we needed to be at, especially as a sannyasi. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you. And that did you just connect that to Srila Prabhupada and Vishnu Jana Swami also?
Vishnu Jana Swami did, in fact, from what I know, Sri Prabhupada disciples can tell you in greater detail. He did, in fact, ask something of Sri Prabhupada about this whole point of when the person does the wrong thing, that they should actually leave the body. Yeah. It's even in the Shastra that when someone hears Krishna being blasphemed, there's a number of things they could do. Three things they could do. They can either defeat the person with an argument, with a debate, to bring the person's mind to the correct thoughts about Krishna. They could leave the body, or they could get out of that place. And that doesn't concern sexual activity. Vishnu Jana Swami's situation was not about sexual activity. It wasn't. But there was something that he had done that he asked Srila Prabhupada. Again, it will be another Prabhupada disciple that can explain in greater detail. And he did ask about, can someone, the Shastra says someone should leave the body in that kind of situation when he's done something wrong. And Srila Prabhupada confirmed it. But Srila Prabhupada did not think that Vishnu Jana Swami would actually do it. Yeah. But they found out later on he had actually committed suicide. Srila Prabhupada was very upset to hear that. Because see, for us, we have a choice. If we hear somebody says something or blaspheme another devotee or blaspheme the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we can defeat their arguments. And if we defeat their arguments, we're still living. We don't have to leave the body. If we leave the place that the person is blaspheming, if we leave that person, I've been put in that situation before where somebody just told me flat out to my face, Krishna is not God. And I really boiled immediately. But I put my hands up like that. I said, Krishna is not God. Thank you very much. There's nothing else to say. And I just walked away from them. So yeah, that option is there. You can use. But somehow Vishnu Jana Swami took that other option of leaving the body. This is what I heard. Okay. And of course, I'm hearing secondhand. So we will take a Prabhupada disciple to tell you more about it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Any other comments?
Yeah, and I really like the time and again you keep focusing on the importance of devotional service. And devotional service is not for everyone. It's just the, what is the word you said? It's the opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's opportunity, and then we should feel fortunate
Yes.
that we are doing the voices. And it's a fact. We really ought to feel fortunate. If we don't feel fortunate, then we don't understand the bigger picture about devotional service.
Right.
It makes us to it gets us to the point of love of Godhead, and it takes us back to the spiritual world. This world that we're in now is going down, 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 down. Hmm? It's like a situation even in this particular country. It is also happening. And there's parallels to what happened even in a place like Dwarka. Hmm? The Yadu dynasty. How did Krishna break it up? They fought among themselves. And then they killed themselves. They left the body. And but actually this was Krishna's plan, pastime for them to go back to the spiritual world. But still, the fact was they were the most powerful. The Yadavas, they were the most powerful. Nobody could defeat them. And therefore, when Krishna wanted them back, because Krishna doesn't think in terms of us staying here in the material world, he wants us to leave all of these problems behind in the material world and go have perpetual association and enjoyment in the spiritual world. Service is there, but service is fun. Service in the spiritual world is fun, it's not work. Here we're working.
Yeah.
But the situation is they broke up. And what is happening in this country? People are fighting, two parties fighting against each other. It is the most powerful country in the world, and it's going the same tracks. So the same tracks is going. A very powerful nation, nobody can defeat them. If Krishna decides to come down, they'll fight among themselves. And it's an assumption, of course, on my part, but it's also real because that's what's going on. People forget they're Americans. They're Democrats first and Republicans first, and they're butting heads. Mm-hmm. So much hatred. Sometimes I think about it and say, aren't we supposed to learn how to love each other? But people are doing exactly the opposite. Hate. So much hatred. Mm-hmm. And when the countries, people start fighting among themselves, it will bring, internally, they can bring the country down. Just like Srila Prabhupada also said in ISKCON. Nobody can put ISKCON down. But if we fight from the inside, then ISKCON can be affected. We also have to be careful about that. Hare Krishna.
That was a good point. Yes, yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Krishna's mercy, Guru's mercy. Hare Krishna. Any other point?
I didn't see anyone's hands up. If anyone had to join, I mean, anything to, you can unmute yourself, but I don't see any hands up.
Okay, thank you everybody for coming on this Sunday morning. Hare Krishna. I think it's the last Sunday in July. Yeah, I think it is.
It is.
Okay. And your Rath is coming up September, isn't it? Yeah. Oh, hi.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. Vanchakalpatarubhishya kripa sivya patitanam namanevyo vaishnavyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.